Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking to you about something I've been thinking a lot lately, especially in 2025. I have a lot of these intrusive thoughts. As a dude, I'm always thinking about why is the world so unfair? And something that I really think it stems from is this great intergenerational theft. You might have heard phrases like, the kids have it easy these days, or it's easier than ever to get ahead. Whenever you're scrolling through TikTok, you see all these gurus saying all these things. But what's really happening, right? I personally don't think this is the case. It's easy if you already have money and assets that appreciate along with inflation. But for the general working class and people who have not started out with so much, we don't really benefit from this, not so much. And I don't know if you guys know, but we've recently introduced Generation Beta. What a weird name, Generation Beta. I guess because they're more beta than the previous generation.
This also marks the nation's first batch of Generation Beta. Now, Generation Beta refers to those born between 2025 and 2039.
Sad to say, each generation is simply more financially cursed than the next. It's part of this thing called a debt cycle. Some generations have it easier than others, but in general, each generation takes on more debt than the next. A generation that sadly seems to inherit more financial challenges than any before it. Sad to say, each generation is simply more financially cursed than the next. It's part of the debt cycle. This isn't just bad luck, and the more you understand about the monetary system, the more you realize it's all fugazi, and here's the crux of the problem. This debt doesn't just disappear. It still needs to be paid. But instead of addressing it now, we're kicking the can further down the road. Each time we increase the debt ceiling, we leave an even heavier burden for the next generation to shoulder. And this all stems from the problem of fiat currency, where US takes a lot of debt, runs its deficit, and spreads this debt all across the world, to put it plainly. And the US national debt, for example, it currently stands at $35 trillion. And with interest rates and the Fed funds rate hovering around 5%, this means taxpayers are on the hook for nearly $1.75 trillion annually in interest payments alone. That's more than the entire discretionary spending budget altogether. And you could say we will lower interest rates, but every other country competes to lower the interest rates to make sure that they are price competitive when you're talking about the global trade system. As debt levels rise and interest payments eat into federal revenue, the ability to fund essential programs, invest in the future, or even just service the debt itself become increasingly strange. Eventually, I think this whole system will collapse. It's just a house of cards. And the real tragedy is that it's the younger generation, people like you and me, those with the least power to influence these decisions, who will bear the brunt of the fallout. You read statistics that say majority of the people in power are growing older, and basically they're all geriatrics, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing correctly, but you look at people in power, they're all 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. You look at Nancy Pelosi, you look at Biden, you look at Powell, even Trump they're all pretty old. And even the younger ones, if you've been suffering for your whole life and you finally gain access to power, you're likely going to want to abuse it. That's just the selfish inherent nature of people. Whether through imposing higher taxes, reducing public services, or inflationary pressures, people like us, the young people, will be paying for decisions made decades before their time. So, for the first time in history, the younger generation are falling behind their parents. Salary, home ownership, wealth accumulation, we're all slipping further out of reach. And if we compare that to where our parents were during this time of their life in their generation, we're kind of far behind. So, let's explore solutions to make this system fairer for everyone. Aside from me coming here to talk to you guys about it or to start a revolution, I'm not trying to do something like that, but I think this stems from one generation breaking the cycle. And that's the question we gotta ask ourselves. Do we truly love our children? Do we want to have children? Of course, the instinctive answer is yes, but if we take a closer look at how societal structures have shifted wealth and opportunity away from their young, this is not really the case. Historically, every generation aspires to give their children a better life. Yet, millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and now Gen Beta are on track to be the first generations in history to be less prosperous than their parents. I think I put up this stat before, but if you look at the affordability index of houses compared to what we can afford now, you know that there's a whole meme going around where your parents could buy a house with 7 raspberries in the 1920s or 30s or whatever, and now they're doing I don't know, Qigong, casino, they're gambling and they're just derping away, while we're all suffering. It goes to show that they really just bit off more than they could chew. They took a lot more debt than they could afford. And according to recent studies, baby boomers control over 50% of the nation's wealth by the time they were 50. Millennials today control just 4.6%. I'm born in 1996, which actually qualifies me as a millennial. But I think I'm still better off than the next generation, which is alpha and beta. So despite technological advancements and record corporate profits, most of these have gone to the CEOs. CEOs have seen increased wages and payouts, while, you know, it's gone up 1,322% since 1978, and the minimum wage on our end has not really kept up to pace. It should now be $23 an hour, but it's more like $7 to $8. This is all US statistics, but I think the same can be said for the rest of the world. Next, we're gonna have to talk about job displacement. So I know there's this whole trend of AI is gonna take over the world, this, AI that. And automation and AI are replacing entry level. I feel like in the past year, the jobs data has been underreported, revised, and overreported a gazillion times, okay? None of the data they give out during Fed meetings are actually even relevant because it's all fugazi. They count things, they change the goalposts for a lot of things. They change the goalposts for inflation, they change how they view unemployment, they change how they view a recession. And I think that the real level of unemployment is actually underreported. I guess that moves on to my next point. If you really just want to screw the system, you don't really have to be some kind of fearless revolutionary to challenge this capitalist system. All you really have to do is just not have kids. You see, kids are what keeps the world going. Nothing sends shivers down the spine of the capitalist and fiat currency structure quite like declining fertility rates. That's why you see Elon Musk, the Pope, the CEO, and governments all shouting from the rooftops about the importance of having babies. Yeah, but why are we putting up with that? Because if you don't, your whole house of cards just comes crashing down. Here's why. Fewer kids means fewer people entering the workforce. And when the labor pool shrinks, wages have to go up. It's a simple case of supply and demand. We'll finally start getting paid what you're worth. But honestly, by the time this happens, I'll probably be too old. On top of that, aging population also costs a ton to maintain. If we have less people in the workforce, it just means fewer tax for them, lower corporate profits, and less people for them to exploit. And if the taxes don't even cover the interest payments of their ballooning debt, in other words, the system starts eating itself. So if you're like me and you've been watching the last couple of decades unfold with frustration, seeing a fiat system ballooning with debt, skyrocketing costs, and corporate greed, you might take some satisfaction in watching this system crumble. So here's a simple way you can do it. There's this new acronym I learned. It's called THINK. Dual income, no kids. Be selfish, as the Pope might say, because at the end of the day, this isn't about personal responsibility. It's about a broken capitalist structure and a fiat currency system designed to trap us in endless cycles of debt and exploitation. When you stop playing the game, you're actually hitting them where it hurts the most. And then the system just comes crashing down. The house of cards falls, and we go back to equilibrium.